know and go round again to add it to your data bank of knowledge and experiences. And I just wanted to shift now into moving from us as learners to us as teachers, because Stephen Brookfield talks a lot about the fact that we should be critically reflective teachers, and that this underpins our effectiveness. And he talks about the fact that we very often teach innocently. That teaching innocently means thinking we're always understanding what it is that we're doing and what effect we're having. And what underpins this is that you should hunt your assumptions. So go back to the thoughts where we started on the assumptions underpinning adult learning. And he challenges us as critically reflective teachers to always hunt our assumptions. That we make assumptions on the basis of what we believe about our learners. And this can be, for example, paradigmatic, that you think because they're adults, they're self-directed learners, so they should set their own curriculum, for example. And as a prescriptive to that, you may feel you want to do a learning contract with that, and that may affect your behaviour. And as a critically reflective practitioner, you not only must look at your assumptions, but you must consider the power relationships between you as the teacher and the people you are teaching, and question those assumptions and practices. And let me give you an example where I really learned a lot from this. And this was, in fact, I think, my second or third visit here, where I was running some workshops. And this is my assumption. It's common sense to visit small groups after you've set them tasks. Since this demonstrates your commitment to helping them learn, visiting groups an example of respectful, attentive, student-centered teaching. Yes? No. In the situation I was teaching in, it was being perceived that I was checking up on them, that I didn't trust them to do the task that I'd asked them to do, and it was very clearly changing the behaviour of the people within the groups when I was there. So my assumption that I needed to visit the groups to help them was actually completely destroying the task of the way that actually I wanted that session and that learning to go. So each and every time you teach, Brookfield's challenge is that you need to critically reflect and hunt your assumptions. Don't make any assumptions at all about the way that the learning is going to happen. And therefore, this poses issues for us as teachers when we are teaching adults, that there are a lot of myths about it being joyful, they're inherent self-directed learners, and there's a unique adult learning experience. But there are an awful lot of other variables, including culture, ethnicity, personality, political ethos, individual groups, group cultures. Those of you who teach in small groups will know from one group to the next is a completely different feel and dynamic. And you need to adjust your teaching and your learning style to each and every group, that you challenge your assumptions every time. So I hope what I've been through is some of the application of adult learning theory into how both we learn as adults and how we can critically reflect as teachers. That there is this concept of experiential learning. You use your experiences as a rich source, you critically reflect, you self-direct, and this important thing about never forgetting that we're learning how to learn all the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trudy. I'm never controversial, it's just that everybody else is always wrong. I've been asked to talk about teaching and learning theories and their application in medical education. There seem to be two extremes in medical education. There are those who do what they do because they've always done it that way and it has always been done that way and they don't want to change. And there are those who like to change things because change seems like a good idea, and any old idea will do as long as it's different. I think we're getting to the point where if medical education is going to be taken seriously, we are going to start having to build a theoretical basis for it. Evidence-based medical education is all very well, but the problem is the way we're gathering evidence is very hit and miss and very pragmatic because we don't have an underlying theoretical basis. And we know in other scientific disciplines that it's not until you get the theoretical basis underlying things that you really start being able to plan your experiments in a logical and systematic way. So I'm making a campaign today to talk about the need for some underlying theory. I'm not going to give you the underlying theory. What I'm going to do is review a variety of theories and ask what they mean for us. Broadly, there are two approaches to learning. The first one is pedagogy. Now, strictly speaking, pedagogy is the teaching of children. I know we loosely talk about our discipline as pedagogy, but we're actually terribly inaccurate. In pedagogy, the content of the learning is dictated by the syllabus, the method of learning is dictated by the curriculum, and the pace of learning is dictated by the teacher. Now, I know a lot of medical schools are like that, but the problem is we're actually dealing with adults, not with children. And the science of educating adults has been called Andragogy. It was really developed by Knowles, he looked at adults in New York State who were attending evening classes. These were not people in formal education. They were people who were in hobby education. They were doing things just because they wanted to do them. And we've got to keep that in mind when we're looking at what Knowles says, because our students are slightly different from that. But in Andragogy, the content of the learning is dictated by perceived need. The learner learns because they see the need to, not because somebody tells them that's what they ought to learn. The method of learning is selected by the learner, and the pace of learning is dictated by the learner. We do have a problem because we do, as people training professionals, have a certain content which we know that the students have to learn. At least we believe they have to learn if they're going to practice medicine safely. So we can't just allow the student to learn what they want to learn. The trick is that we can show them what it is they need to learn, so that from their point of view, they're learning it because of perceived need, and from our point of view, we are directing them to the right things that they need to learn. Knowles went on to sort of describe the adult learner. It has got graced with the title of adult learning theory. It is not really a theory, it's purely a qualitative description of what happens. Adults in their learning have a specific purpose in mind. Now, our medical students do have a specific purpose in mind. They want to become doctors. Adults are voluntary participants in learning, and again, although we may have compulsory sessions, in a sense the learners are voluntary because they want to be at medical school. They could have done something else if they had wanted. They require meaning and relevance. They require active involvement in learning. They need clear goals and objectives. They need feedback, and they need to be reflective. A lot of medical education has been based on this